Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Emmett Savoris Show. I am, of course, Emmett Savoris, and joining me is Noah Bolter. I believe the last episode I did was my last mock draft. Now we have one. We're a week out from the draft. I think literally like a week out, almost down to about 30 minutes away from when the draft would be. We'll get into my mock draft 2.0 here really quick. But first off, Noah, I'd like to know, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm eager to do this because honestly, when you invited us again, I was thinking, oh Lord, something crazy is going to happen with Seattle's picks. And that was my initial instinct. So either it's going to be really good or really bad for us. And knowing you, probably bad.
No, I don't think so. I think Seattle's in a fun spot where they, I don't want to say can't mess up, but like especially with that number 6 pick, like there's not a whole lot of ways that they could really go wrong. Like I know you weren't a fan of the Tyree Wilson pick last time, but like I feel like that's even then like at that spot that's not like a bad pick. I think that that's within the range of like still being a good pick. Yeah, they're not going to be walking out of the top 6 with like Kalijah Cansey, or something like that, where it's like, ew, really, you're going with them there. But yeah, here let's get into it, or let's get into it in a second. But I did tell you I wanted to pick your brain on something that happened. I don't usually talk NBA on my show because it's not really my expertise, but I wanted to hear your thoughts. Should Draymond Green have gotten suspended? Because I have a very like firm take on this, and I don't understand how it really is any other way. But what are
Wow.
you thinking?
So, okay. That's funny. As soon as you said NBA, I felt like I knew what the question was.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that we were going to be talking NBA, but my boss asked me the same thing. And I told him the same thing I'm going to tell you. Stop being so soft. Oh my goodness. Where is he supposed to put his foot down? I'm not gonna lie. Like that, I don't think I've done anything quite like because he definitely like put a little extra into it, but he didn't have too many places to go. And you could at least fight with the argument saying when you're going down the court, not only is it because someone's wrapped around your leg, but you got to explode up to go get down the court to get back on the other side. And so I'm saying I think they're charging him based on what he's done in the past. And the NBA commissioner acknowledged like this is partly because of track record. And I don't love that. I really do not love that. I think the NBA is getting soft, just like the NFL is getting soft. And I agree with Colin Cowherd when he says Draymond Green is one of the last tastes of the 80s or 90s that we have. And that's how I play the game of basketball. Not by stomping on people, no, but by being the dirty guy, being the guy that's not afraid to get my hands dirty. And so when I'm playing, just pick up ball. I'll play against anyone. They'll get bucket after bucket on me. It don't matter. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to make them work for it. And I'm going to do whatever I got to do to beat them. So I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to hurt them. But I'm not afraid to like step over them if I hit a shot or something like that. Like I'm not afraid to be the one that drives them crazy and gets in their head and all that stuff. Draymond Green did this to them. Now, what he yelled to the audience, that was unnecessary. I understand it, but it was unnecessary. I don't agree with that, especially because there are kids around. So that was unprofessional. But to ban him for that after, and I've been Sabonis too in that picture. I haven't got stomped on, but I've been the guy holding on to the leg low key, and it was on purpose. Matter of fact, I was playing a rec league basketball game. Like we were playing 5-on-5 with referees and all that, like earlier this year. And there was this big, like 300-pound dude who was like playing against me, and I'm defending him, and he does this little cheap foul where he's like, I can't remember exactly what it is. It was like he kicked my leg. And so I fell on the ground. And I said, all right, if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. And so I, what I'm saying, I didn't grab him, but my arm happened to be in the way. And so like and then he gonna fall like halfway on me, this 300-pound dude, you know what I'm saying? But that's part of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't mad at him for falling on me. And then we get up and he gonna start talking to me. So I'm gonna tell you, I talk back. And so that's how that went. So I thought it was soft to suspend. Just let him play, man.
See, here's the thing. If again, you kind of talked about how the NBA had, his past play into the decision. Yeah, that's how the real world works, right? The first time you do something dirty, like, I don't know, kick somebody in the groin. But let's just use that as an example. The penalty is going to be not as harsh. When it's the sixth time you've done something crazy, that's where your past plays into it. That's how it plays into it. Like, obviously, like, America's justice system is not the best and it's not perfect, but like the second time you get arrested for, breaking into a car, your penalty is going to be it's going to be bigger than it was the first time, right? And obviously not all these incidents are the same, but I think like and one of the takes on it that I really agree with is, had Draymond accepted what happened, I don't want to say necessarily gracefully, but had he not been at his press conference kind of like, well, where was I supposed to put my foot? Kind of like how you felt about had he just been like, yeah, I looked back at it. Yeah, I probably should have been tossed. I think he probably saves himself the suspension. But I think Draymond Green, I think he has this, not an ego about him, but he it felt for a little bit there, especially with like riling up the crowd and doing all this stuff. And especially when he was talking about like, well, where was I supposed to put my foot? It kind of felt like he thought he could do no wrong. And I think personally that the league had to suspend him. Would I have understood if, because I don't think that you think that his suspension is like, what? I cannot believe it. I think like you're like, I understand why they suspended him. I wouldn't have done it, but I understand why they did. And I kind of feel the same way, but from the opposite side. Like, I preferred that they suspended him. Like, but if they not suspended, I wasn't expecting them to suspend him, to be super honest with you. I thought that, but as it went on, and especially as the time played on and it got like later into the night, where it's like, how have we not gotten an answer on whether or not he's suspended or not? I think that kind of showed the league's cards a little bit. I'm
Yeah,
shocked. I'm shocked that you went that he shouldn't have been suspended. I'm a little
I,
shocked.
you know what I wanted to see?
What?
I wanted to see what the Sacramento Kings would have done to Draymond on the other end of the floor after that review. I wanted to see how the rest of the team was going to respond. They were going to put a shoulder into him. You know that clip? You know that clip that just, oh, I love this clip. Like, the Team USA basketball was playing, was it Spain? Is that where Pau Gasol plays?
Yeah.
Or was it Argentina? It was Spain.
Spain.
Okay. And so they're playing Spain. And this is back in like 2011, 2010. I think it's 2010. And it's LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant versus Pau Gasol and whoever else. And have you seen the video where it's like all the teammates on Team USA are talking about how Kobe Bryant, what he said heading into the game, and how he was feeling? Because Kobe Bryant told all of them, and none of them believed him. It was like, dude, first play of the game, I know what they're going to run, and I'm running through Pau Gasol. He's going to be the last screen. And Kobe and Dwayne, or no, LeBron and Dwayne are like, dude, what are you doing? That's your teammate. Like, you need him in the actual scene. Like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And, just as he said, on the very first play of the game, Kobe Bryant runs all the way around the first screens and then runs all the way through Pau Gasol. Not no amateur, not no soft, no holding back, ran through Pau Gasol football style, should have some pads on. And when Kobe Bryant does that to Pau Gasol, everyone's sitting there wondering, like, well, if he do that to him, what would he do to me? Emmett just said his Wi-Fi went out. Man, like, if he would do that to him, what would they do to me? And that is just, that sets the tone. It sends a message. And that message is that no matter who you are, and then guess who won? Team USA. Because of the mentality that, look, we're doing this one way or another. Like, you got a hard foul. It's different when you're playing like Red Cleat. Okay, there's not money on the line. There's not championships on the line. This is the highest level of competition in the world when it comes to the NBA playoff, the NBA by itself, and then the NBA playoffs. And so for Draymond Green to be going against this team and to be doing stuff like that after, because it was a reactionary thing. If Sabonis doesn't grab Draymond's leg, this doesn't happen. This was reactionary. And we're not hearing anyone say suspend Sabonis. So what if Kobe would have got suspended for Team USA? Yeah, they probably still would have won. But no one would have liked to see that after he ran through Pau Gasol.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out.
Did you catch
Fantastic
any of that?
timing, obviously. No, not a second of it. But I'm assuming whatever you were saying. I'm assuming again. You're the basketball guy, so I'm assuming that you were saying something that I would have agreed with.
I'm just hoping you would rewatch. So no, because it's disagreeing with your point. You got to rewatch that though, because I went off. Okay. I'm gonna let's reload it real quick. Just the cliff notes, right? Okay. So have you seen the video that's gone viral of Kobe Bryant, Team USA versus Pau Gasol?
No.
And so what happens is the video starts and it's got the dun 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 dun. It's got the heavy like motivational music, and you see LeBron and Dwayne Wade, Kobe's teammates, talking about the very first play of the game. He said he knew what the play was. Pau Gasol was going to be the last screen, and he was going to run through Pau Gasol. And it's LeBron and D Wade saying, bro, Kobe ain't going to do that. Why would he do that? That's his teammate. You need him when it comes to us. Like, you're not going to run through Pau Gasol. We didn't think it was going to do it. Then they show the first play of the game. Pau Gasol is the last screen. Kobe lowers the shoulder, blows him up, cracks him, goes through him like he needed pads on. And Pau Gasol hits the ground. Kobe gets the foul. That right there sets the message. That sets the tone. I don't care who you are. I'm about to crack you. Who do you think won that year? Who do you think won that game? That kind of stuff right there is exactly why this should be allowed. Imagine how Kobe got suspended after that. You know what I'm saying? This, and what else I said was Draymond Green didn't just do this willy-nilly. He didn't just push Sabonis to the ground and then stomp on him. Sabonis fell. He grabbed Draymond's leg, and Draymond had a reactionary movement. Like, it wasn't even like this whole like premeditated, like, I'm going to go mess this guy up. No, it was reactionary. If Sabonis doesn't grab his leg, Green doesn't do that. And so it's for those reasons. I'm like, let him play, man. I really wanted to see what Sacramento would have done to Draymond on the other side and what it turned into.
Fair enough. I think their game 3 is either tonight or tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow. I like Golden State's chances, especially without Draymond. I like him. Just for that night, though. But all right, let's get into the mock draft. We only have a limited amount of time.
It's tonight
with the squad. It's tonight. All right. Well, I like.
Uh-oh.
What the heck? Okay, did something else happen with my Wi-Fi here? This is just insane. Are you here? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Man, this is just horrible. Okay. All right, sweet. There we go. You're back. All right. You can see the screen. Let's get started with the draft. This one, I can do trades as opposed to the last one. Last time I went off, I let off when Anthony Richardson off the top. I've changed my opinion, but not to CJ Stroud. Alabama quarterback Bryce Young going number 1 overall. I think that it's just, at this point, it seems like the way that the Panthers want to go. And I feel like, especially, when they made the trade, my biggest thing is they don't want to go all the way up to 1 to go get a guy who's eh. And I think that CJ Stroud is eh. So I think that kind of really put between me, or for me, it really kind of put it down to either Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. And obviously I'd been on the Anthony Richardson train. I'm not necessarily all the way off of it, but the reports definitely do sound like they're way more interested in Bryce Young than I had ever thought. Then that puts us at number 2. And I think this is where the draft gets kind of wild, because I think that's who the Texans wanted. The Texans, I don't think, are going to take a project quarterback when they don't really have a whole lot else outside of a left tackle. So I don't see Anthony Richardson. I also don't think that they're going to take CJ Stroud. All the stuff with CJ Stroud's agent is Deshaun Watson's agent. I think that the Texans over the past couple of years have had like 3 different players who had the same agent as Deshaun Watson over the past couple of years, and all of them are no longer on the team. They've all gotten out, whether it's being traded, cut, anything like that. They're no longer on the team. So I think that that's something huge, and I don't think that he's going to do that, which is why I have them going Will Anderson. That's second overall. Number 3, I think that this is a spot where you could see a team try to trade in. I think the Texans could try to trade out of 2. I think that the Cardinals could try to trade out of 3. But I think that nobody is willing to give the Cardinals any sort of value, right? I think this is where you could see any of those next 3 teams. So Indianapolis, Seattle, Detroit, try to trade up to number 3 and try to get, whether it is a CJ Stroud, whether it is an Anthony Richardson. But I think that it's going to be very tough for Arizona to try to get value, especially with Anderson already off the board. They're looking for value. They need to get as many picks. We can take a look and see what some of the offers potentially are. The Eagles, no, I don't really look at them as a team who would want to come up and try to select somebody. So we'll sit here, and I think that they need anything defensive related, man. Truly anything. I think that they would have loved Will Anderson. I don't think they're going to be able to get Will Anderson. But I also think already with the issues that they seem to have with their own locker room, I don't know if adding Jalen Carter into that is a very good idea, which is why I have him going Tyree Wilson at pick number 3. Pick number 4, we have the Indianapolis Colts. And this is where I think Anthony Richardson goes. Over CJ Stroud. I think that CJ Stroud is probably the most pro-ready guy, probably in the entire draft class. I think that he can be very similar to like we saw Mac Jones his rookie year. I think that's probably the best place for. I thought that he could probably go to a team who has a like halfway decent roster, and I think he could probably, if they were a playoff team, especially in the NFC, I think he could keep them there. Like Seattle would be a really good spot for him. But I don't think he goes to Seattle. But I think with Anthony Richardson at 4, I think Shane Steichen wants a guy who's going to be more mobile. Yeah, it's going to take some time for him to develop, but we just saw Jalen Hurts take leaps with his passing over the past, season and a half, right? From the time that he took over as play caller in Philadelphia to now. Obviously, Jalen Hurts wound up leading a team to the Super Bowl. Do I think that that's going to be Anthony Richardson? Obviously, right off the bat, no. But he's going to have a nice run game to sit behind. And that brings us to 5. After 5, I'll try to pick your brain, but 5 is Seattle. That's your team. You've kind of talked about how interior defensive line is probably where they want to go. Quarterback could make sense if CJ Stroud is their guy. It could make sense. But here I used to have him going Tyree Wilson, but the way the draft board's fallen, obviously Wilson's already off the board. I'd be looking for them to try to trade back. But I don't know if any team really wants to come up for CJ Stroud, which is why I have him taking Jalen Carter, who was thought to be one of the best draft prospects in the entire draft. Obviously the off the field issues have been settled, not necessarily in a way that looks great for Jalen Carter, but he winds up falling to Seattle at 5 in my mock. What do you think of the first 5 picks? What do you think of the Seahawks pick?
Well, can you scroll up a little bit, just show it a little bit? First of all, I'd like to point out, who's been saying the Seahawks should trade back for months now in our Bolt group chat, and you and Steezy were like, nah, that's a terrible idea. Look how your board is coming through. You just said it makes sense. And I agree with you. I think at that point, either we take Jalen Carter because he's the last blue chipper available, or we trade back. And taking Jalen Carter is a risk. Now, I will say this, and I want to give you some credit here, because your top 5 is looking a lot more like, and these things are never chalk, because it's impossible to fully predict what's going to happen in these things. Yeah. But from what I've been hearing, I think your top 5 is very, very accurate. And I'm telling you, I'd be okay with Jalen Carter if Anthony Richardson fell. I've seen that happen a couple times. I wouldn't be entirely opposed. I think he could be the Lamar Jackson of this draft class. Now, one trade that's kind of piqued my interest, and we're probably not going to get an opportunity to do it. We're doing a mock draft tomorrow, the 4 of us, you, me, Steezy, and Dylan, on the Bolt tomorrow at 6 p.m. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, what do you think about one team that could potentially trade up to either number 2 or number 3 to try and jump Indy? Who are you
gonna? I have a feeling it's Tennessee.
That's a good guess. It's wrong. The team who I'm talking about wouldn't have to give up too much capital, and they have plenty to give up. They have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, 2 fifths, and a sixth. And a team in their division just lost or is losing their star quarterback. The Detroit Lions, who have been building a successful roster in the trenches, both sides of the ball. They're building a great situation. Jared Goff had a really good year. His value is at an all-time high. If you want to trade him, you make him part of the deal. Now, Texans I'm making the case for the Texans right now. The Texans have a much more reliable quarterback. They have much more capital. Yes, they wouldn't be getting Will Anderson, but you throw in some of those additional picks. This is a roster that needs a lot of help, and that's the argument against drafting a quarterback, especially when you're not sold on him. And you trade back to 6, you can get one of those quarterbacks and feel a lot better about it than you can at number 2. Imagine you trade back to 6, you get CJ Stroud there. Imagine.
Yeah.
Like that's such a win for the Texans. And then Detroit, this is the time. Jared Goff's value is all-time high, and Aaron Rodgers is leaving. He's disgruntled and staying, and he's not going to be there long. So I think that trade makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. No, I understand. And honestly, number 6, I have him going CJ Stroud. I think that there's potential that they could trade up into one of those top couple spots, but the way the draft board has fallen for him, I think it's perfect. I think that he's almost a carbon copy of like a guy like a Jared Goff, where, if you give him, like the Lions had the best offensive line in the league, if you give him good skill position players, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, you give him Jameson Williams, you give him, he has DeAndre Swift, and I believe they signed, I believe it was David Montgomery they signed for their backfield. They still could use some help at the tight end position, but I think if you wind up giving them a guy like CJ Stroud, they can move off of Jared Goff's contract, which is important. And once they do that, I think that they could be potentially scary. Like, I don't think Jared Goff has to, or CJ Stroud's a guy who's going to have to sit behind Jared Goff. Like, I think he could come in and be very similar. But I think that, I think that would be the perfect quarterback. I think that they're a team whose roster currently, they don't need a quarterback who's going to be making plays, left and right. They just need somebody who's going to be solid and distribute the ball. And I think for now, I think that's where they're going to have to go, get somebody stable at quarterback. Then you go with the Vegas Raiders here at number 7. They need a lot. There is a lot that they need. But I'm going to start off, and I'm going to have the first corner go off the board. I'm going to have Christian Gonzalez go off the board here. Defensively, the Raiders are a mess. They still don't really know what they're doing when it comes to how they're building their team. I don't think. I think that they're caught in this weird stage of we still want to, have one foot in the go in for a Super Bowl bucket, and then another foot in the rebuild bucket. And it's you can't do both. You can't do both. You're paying Jimmy Garoppolo way more money than you should be. You should have just stuck with Derek Carr if you wanted to remain competitive. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But we'll have him go cornerback here as opposed to when I think I had him go Will Levis in the last one. You and me kind of got not necessarily into it, but we were talking about the Falcons pick, and I think I agree a little bit more. Not with, I think, one of your points, because I had him going Lucas Van Ness last time, but I think now it wouldn't shock me if cornerback is what they went. I think you sold me on that. And when we had that conversation on pairing somebody up with AJ Terrell, I really liked the idea. So Devon Witherspoon, top 2 corners going off the board, 7, 8. And that brings us to 9 with the Bears. And I think that the Bears, this is probably where the first this is where the first tackle goes off the board. And I think it's Peter Skoronski. Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily the best tackle in the draft, and it wouldn't necessarily shock me. If the next best guy, being Paris Johnson Jr., winds up going, he's kind of rising up draft boards for the most part. But it wouldn't shock me if he winds up going there. But I think the Bears are going to respect the how they're going to be able to use Skoronski. I think he can be a guard. He could potentially be a tackle. And I think that they're going to value that. Number 10, here's where we have our first trade. And I got to be honest with you. Do I think this is necessarily going to happen? No. That's what I want to happen, though. Let's go Packers here. Hopping in. They want pick number 10. Let's see. I'm going to take a look at my trade value chart. Let's see. They're at 10. I would need to add about another 500 points in value. So I'm going to add in their second round pick at 43. I think that they'll wind up, or sorry, 45. I think they'll wind up getting another one. I think they'll wind up getting another one in I think they'll wind up getting another one in the, I don't know why it's okay. It's just not letting me do the trade, whatever. But I think that the Packers trading up to 10 here. Let's just pretend this is the Packers pick so I can go through it. I hate that it's not letting me do this, but I think the Packers trading up to 10. They've traded up in the first round in 3 of the 5 drafts with Brian Gutekunst as manager. If they have a guy there that they want, they'll go get. And they want Jackson Smith and Jigba, and so they'll go get Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that it's something that it's very important that they get a wide receiver in this draft. And I think that getting a guy this good, I think it really rounds out their skill position players. I know we're running out of time here, so I'll try to go through it as quick as I can. That puts the Titans at pick 11. And that's where I think that Paris Johnson Jr. goes. I think you could kind of see a run on tackles potentially going here. The Houston Texans, I think this is another like best player available. And so it wouldn't shock me if they wound up going not Lucas Van Ness, but I think they just, man, it's so tough because they need so many people. Deonte Banks or really anybody for that secondary. I think they could use another corner to pair up with Stingley Jr., who they drafted at 3 overall last year. The Jets go and tackle as well. I think Darnell Wright is continuing to rise. I wouldn't shock me if he's gone there. And that really screws over the New England Patriots, who have been looking for a tackle. But I think Quentin Johnston's a guy who can wind up going there and be not necessarily super successful, but I think that it gives New England a threat that they don't necessarily have. It gives them a guy who, although he didn't run super great at his combine, and I'm still not super in love with what he did. But yeah, in his combine, and he didn't test super great. And I think he's like 2 inches shorter than everybody thought he was and all this stuff. But I think that if you put him outside, I think he can be a playmaker that the Patriots are really looking for. I'll try. Let's see here. I'll pick your brain here. I might have to do like a part 2 at a different time, but let's get your thoughts through pick 14. I'll scroll back up for you a little bit. Remember, pick number 10 is Green Bay.
I think it's a great move for Green Bay. I think that's honestly, I think it's extremely likely now just because there's not a huge need for wide receivers outside of your pick. And then you talk about a team that doesn't mind spiting a former quarterback. I think this is a move that Green Bay would make. Things are getting ugly in that relationship. You didn't return my call. I am going to pick what you wanted your entire career here. So I think I think it's extremely accurate to this point. I'm curious to see where you have Philly taking with 15, and then I want to see what you have Seattle at 20.
Yeah. Philly, I think one of the things that they're very good with is taking positions before they have a need there. Right. They went through this entire offseason, and we thought that they were going to lose out on a couple of their corners. It winds up working out, and I believe they re-signed Bradbury. They were able to hold on to Darius Slay. But I think that they could use a guy like Brian Branch, who is super versatile, because I think that they lost one of their safeties, if I'm remembering correctly. They lost one of their safeties in free agency. But I don't know how likely it is that all of those corners are still getting paid big bucks on the team by this time next year. So if they're able to add a piece, but I could truly see them going pretty much anybody here at 15, but I'll have the Eagles going there at 15. Number 16, that's the Commanders. They're going Joey Porter Jr. They've needed defensive back pretty much the entire draft. And now that's where one's going to go for them. And I think that they get one of the best ones in the draft, especially one of my favorites. I kind of gush over any, former player or a kid of a former player. I always feel like they're a little bit more polished when they come into the league as opposed to some of the other ones. Here at pick number 17, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, they needed either tackle. They could still go edge, but they needed a tackle. And really, I think that they'd probably be reaching on Anton Harrison. I think Broderick Jones is probably good value here for him. So I'll have them go Broderick Jones. Detroit at number 18. Man, they have some very fun picks in this draft, because I think that they can kind of not do whatever, but they have a lot of all of their picks, very similar to Seattle, are in like
Look at
fun
them.
spots where like they get one where it's like, okay, we need something out of this pick. And then other than that, it's like they can kind of mess around. Like they kind of have all that freedom to kind of do whatever they want. Sadly for them, again, I think at the past draft, I had him getting Jalen Carter and then also winding up being able to get some cornerback depth. But the cornerbacks have kind of flown off the board here. But I'm going to have him go Kalijah Cansey on the inside. He's not the size that they would necessarily want him to be. I think they'd obviously prefer Jalen Carter in size. And I think if Jalen Carter does slip past Seattle, even if CJ Stroud is there, it wouldn't shock me if they still went his way. Then we get to Tampa Bay at pick 19. I think that's where Will Levis goes. It wouldn't shock me if they traded up for him. I'm kind of trying to breeze through this. So potentially I would have considered that in the past. Then for Seattle, your team, I think they went and they got Jalen Carter. So now they still have a needed edge. They still could use a guy like Lucas Van Ness who has the size. You can kick inside. Brian Brissy, I know, is a player that you like. But I don't know if you want to necessarily go directly to inside or defensive lineman when that's what you did last with your last pick. Although doubling up isn't a bad idea. I could see them taking a guy like Nolan Smith, where he's so explosive, and you saw that with all of his testing at the combine, that they might just at this point, it would be fun to take a shot on him. And just like, although he's, undersized, I think that I don't know if that's something that necessarily scares Seattle at the moment. Oh, it's a very fun pick. I know I think there's like 4 players, all of these players outside of Dalton Kincaid, I could see going at this pick. And I think that it's still a really good pick for Seattle. The way the board's fallen for him, I think it's a very good pick for Seattle. What about you?
Yeah, you didn't make it though. You got to make
the
pick.
I know. I'm like, I don't know who I want to go.
Who I would go right here?
I know. I think you would go. I think you'd go Myles Murphy. That's who I think you would go.
That's a great.
But I'm gonna go Lucas Van Ness for you, just because I think that Seattle's gonna value the versatility of Lucas Van Ness at that spot.
And I think one of Seattle's weaknesses, but it's not always a weakness. It's one of Seattle's tendencies is to go with the freaking nature. So honestly, I think if it got to that point, I think they go Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
I think they go with and then they put him one-on-one with DK Metcalf in training camp just a couple times. One time in the trenches, one time on a route, and just have them cook each other. Look, I think how this board has fallen is extremely interesting. Now, one big flaw, and it's the name you got on the screen right there. I think Bijan Robinson's going top 14. I think somebody is going to trade up. I think Philly would have taken him. I think New England might have taken him.
I don't know. Especially
teams that are committed to the run.
But here's the thing. If you listen, Philly, I could 100%. I think personally, for Philly, how do I say this? Because I don't think that that Bijan Robinson is a bad pick. I think it would be the wrong pick for Philly at that spot.
Really?
Yeah, because so here's the thing. Their roster is better than the 2019 Kansas City Chiefs team who won the Super Bowl. They're better. But I still think that spending, unless it's, and because I don't know if running back's necessarily like a position of need for them. Like I think that they could use depth, but I don't think that it's like a position of like need for them, and like that they. I think that it would be wrong of them to waste a pick this high, or not waste, to use a pick this high on a position that's not super valuable. And I'm not sure necessarily if that position. I don't think that drafting Bijan Robinson changes life for him. I think that he's better than he's obviously better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who the Chiefs took after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in 2019, where they were kind of like, it doesn't matter. We just won the Super Bowl. We can use this pick on a running back. I think that Philly has to take advantage currently of the fact that they're not paying anybody anything. And I think that taking a position that you're going to have to, that you're going to be paying soon, right? So like if they go cornerback, if they go edge, if they go offensive line, truly, if they go anything that they're going to be spending a lot of money on somewhat soon, I think that's the smarter pick. Because I think if you ask Kansas City, even the year after they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, again, not the same situation. Bijan is a lot better of a prospect. But I think they are kicking themselves that they didn't use that pick on somebody more valuable. Again, Bijan's not going to be a bust, and I think that he would work well for him. However, I think that they have bigger I think that they could get greater uses, or I think they have greater uses for that draft pick than using it on a running back. And then New England, they don't draft running backs high regardless.
Do you know when Philly picks again?
Philly picks again at 31.
Bingo. Okay. Well, and that's really 30 because Miami doesn't
30.
pick.
Yeah.
And so if you're telling me, my question to you is, what's the biggest difference? Bijan Robinson and the next best running back, or Brian Branch and the next best safety?
Well, so okay, I think that's a little different of a question because I think that there's a massive drop. Like, not that I think Brian Branch is like one of the, but I also, but I'm not sure. I think there's a massive drop off between Branch and the next biggest safety. I'm not sure. I think that there is a drop off between Bijan and the next best running back, but I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is still a really good running back. And also, I don't necessarily think that trading up into the first, continuing to trade up to go get Bijan with, pick 30, I don't think that's necessarily off the board. You'd be giving up what, like a 3rd round pick, along with, like, I could potentially see them trading up with, just looking at how the board could potentially fall here. Like, I could see them trading with a Jacksonville, right? Who Jacksonville, one of their biggest needs is going to be guard, and I think guards are going to be available, and within the next couple of, like, I think the guard that they want, who's probably going to be O'Cyrus Torrence, I think will be available at pick 30. I could see them trading him because I truly think the one team that Philly has to beat for Bijan is Dallas. That's the one team that they have to jump. It's Dallas.
You don't think Dallas would trade up?
No.
The other thing I'm looking at is
Dallas values their draft picks too much. They don't trade up.
They did for Micah Parsons.
No, they did. Well, okay.
They jumped over Philly.
No. They traded back and got Micah.
They traded back, or did they trade?
They traded back
because it was the Devontae Smith pick. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at, because I'm looking at a Chargers team that Austin Eckler wants out. I'm looking at a Baltimore team, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins. I see them having a willingness to bring in a Bijan, because if anyone's going to run with another running back, it'd be Baltimore. I'm looking at a Minnesota team who's probably going to be without Dalvin Cook. And I'm looking at a Dallas team who I believe would trade up if it means jumping Philly. I think the whole thing is between Philly and Dallas, and I could see other teams getting involved, trying to get Bijan early. When you talk about a Bijan Robinson, this is a guy that day one is going to improve your team drastically, no matter where he goes. I want Seattle to get Bijan Robinson. I'd be okay with Seattle going and getting him at some point. Now, you look at Philly, their depth chart at running back right now, their second guy is Kenneth Gainwell. Their first guy is injury McPenny. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, Rashad Penny, I love the guy, but he cannot stay healthy. And that's been his thing his entire career. They need depth, and not just weak depth. They need a guy who can impact their team. They need to compete now, and they need to win now. And that they just paid their quarterback, highest paid quarterback all time. You got to go get a guy like this.
Again, I don't think it would be a bad pick. I just think that they have bigger needs. Do you need to get out of here? It's 6:08.
I do need to get out of here.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll probably we'll stop it here. This I think that was where the draft really got interesting. I think from here on out it's kind of easy. I think you go probably wide receivers for like the next couple of teams. I could see Minnesota kind of needs to go anything defense. I think that you'll see receivers fly off the board at 21, 22, probably 25. I think Bijan will go either, at 20. I think that Philly could potentially trade up for him and try to jump Dallas. I think that Dallas, if some, I think that they might go. They don't really care about drafting, premium position, or they don't care about, value. Like they've drafted a quarter or a running back 4th overall. They've drafted an inside linebacker at 18. I don't know if they care about value, so I could see them really doing anything with that pick. At some point I'll have you on again before the draft. Obviously we have our mock draft tomorrow, but I'll have you on again before the draft. We'll be able to get through a full draft, a full first round draft. And you know what? I'll take some of your what you say into consideration, next time.
It'll serve you well, brother. And
Okay.
same to you. We're gonna have our mock draft tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're not gonna know where we're picking. We're gonna pick every 4. Each of us will pick every 4. We're going to like 20. So it's gonna be a lot of fun tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it, buddy. Thanks for having me.
I am too. So are we doing that drawing like live?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. So I'm gonna have to do all the. Good thing I have
All
tomorrow
20
off.
teams.
I'm gonna be doing all that homework like tomorrow. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope. You know what?
You tell me you weren't prepared for today?
I hope. No. That's not what I said. And so I hope I get Seattle's picks. You sabotaged my team last year. Oh, the paybacks. Hey, Tanner McKee at 5 is gonna be fun. I think Tanner McKee at 5 is gonna be fun.
Just so long as you don't get the first or the last pick, right? Isn't that how it works? Because 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
As long as I don't.
So if you get 2
1
or 3,
4.
we're fine. Yep.
Yeah. See, here's the thing. I want 2. I want 2. So I believe because that's green. Or actually, no, 3 is Green Bay's pick. 15. Who else would I get then? I'd get 3. I'd get 3. I'd get Arizona.
7.
Arizona, Vegas, Tennessee, and Green Bay.
Oof. That's an ugly lineup.
Yeah, and then 19 is Tampa. Oof.
That's
Yikes.
just boring.
I don't know if I want those ones. No, oh no. You know, I won't let you know my potential strategy for the Packers. Although whoever the Packers GM, whoever winds up getting Packers, I'm gonna be armchair GM in that thing. I'm gonna come in with trade packages, be like, hey, here's what you should offer. You know.
All right, yep, it's gonna be fun, man.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. And then I will see you at some point in the next week. And then I have my draft spectacular a week from today. Live streaming the entire draft. It's going to be me. It's going to be Goat Talk with Marcus. Noah will probably stop by. I'm sure somebody else will stop by as well. It'll be fun. Hopefully it goes better than last year for me though.
Dude, and you know what's crazy is so I'm with my work. We were talking today, and we were talking about like draft coverage. People started talking about like the Seahawks pick, and I'm sitting in that room and I'm thinking to myself, like, you guys don't even know. Like last year, I freaking nailed the draft predictions.
Yeah.
Like, and it was so bad. I just want to talk about this stuff. It's gonna be fun, man.
It's gonna be very fun. Again, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.